Is this all a gift to Republicans, though?
I don't think we can take it a gift because we don't want to get lazy. We've got to keep working. I mean, El-Sayed in Michigan, yes, he's a socialist, he's a communist, but just saying those words, kids don't know what that means. So you have to say, he's going to raise your taxes. He just admitted he's going to raise taxes on everybody. He's going to take away your health care. You're going to lose that opportunity to pick your doctor. A lot of UAW members in Michigan don't like that. We have to define what they're talking about and not just call them a socialist. I think that's what a lot of Republicans are falling on. People don't know what that means.
All right, there's so much to break down there. First of all, she said, Abdul El-Sayed, he's a socialist, he's a communist. That's a 100% lie, and that makes sense. She ran the RNC. They're pathological liars, and I get it. Politicians all lie, and the DNC is, not an angel to say the least. Okay, and we've got our massive issues with the DNC. RNC in this case is just avowed liars, pathological liars. So Abdul El-Sayed has said countless times that he's a capitalist. He's not part of DSA, let alone a communist, but McDaniel lies as usual. And then we're gonna get to the rest of her lies because she says, oh, Medicare for all, oh, that's so bad. Really? And it's gonna cost us so much money, it's gonna raise your taxes. Not true. So a Yale study just came out, Medicare for all would save 114,000 American lives and $1 trillion a year. Savings include reductions in administrative overhead, pharmaceutical prices, fraudulent billing that comes in at over $200 billion we're giving to disgusting corporate CEOs who are robbing us blind on purpose, and avoidable emergency care. And next up for the study is peer review, but older studies have also found similar findings. Previous research has shown that shifting the United States to Medicare for all system could save roughly 68,000 lives and $650 billion per year. The new one from Yale says higher, obviously. And remember, Trump just took away Medicare from tons of Americans. To be fair, he had to give everyone making above $500,000 a $1.1 trillion tax cut. Did he? Did they need another $1 trillion? But now a lot of you are gonna lose health care because the richest people in the country, according to Trump and the Republicans, needed more and more and more of your money because their greed is infinite. So what's the result? Upward of 15 million Americans could lose health insurance coverage over the next decade because of Medicaid cuts and President Donald Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Act and the Republican-led Congress's failure to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies that expired at the end of last year. So now when you add that on top of that, well, you're gonna get a lot more than 114,000 Americans dead because they don't have health insurance. No other developed nation on earth doesn't have universal health care, allows people to die in the streets because they couldn't pay for private health insurance, because they couldn't pay for the yacht of a CEO of a health insurance company that doesn't need to exist at all. We're not talking about doctors here, we're just talking about health insurance. They say you have to do it in a private way where we all have to wait and wait and wait to get a doctor's appointment, where everything is constantly denied. No, you can't have that, you can't have this, go die. And give me more money, give me your premiums, etc. And I gotta have a profit margin. And the profit margin has to be gigantic. And we have to add to it every year and every year. And you owe me all that. All the other countries in the world that are developed use the government for health insurance. And it works without all of that excess, all of that waste. We save money if we go to universal health care. Under universal health care in developed nations, they pay on average half of what we do. $1 trillion is a massive understatement. They pay half of what we do. This is a total robbery. One more lie. She says, oh, UAW doesn't support Medicare for all. Really? The UAW supports Medicare for All Act. It is endorsed by the UAW, and they say because no one should have to rely on the generosity of their boss to see a doctor or get the care that they need. So, now I have more to debunk her, but I want to bring Sabby in here. So, we have the lying media that tells you Medicare for all is a radical position when it polls at 65%. So are 2/3 of Americans radical? And then you have the liars, of course, on the Republican side. And by the way, let's be real, corporate Democrats who keep telling us that this is undoable and it'll lead to us paying more. So break down all those lies for me.
You know, it's insane that they're still telling this lie about Medicare for all after all these years. But the reality is, it is cheaper if we had Medicare for all compared to the system that we do have now. There's been multiple studies that have been done on this, as you just showed one of them there. The reality is, I don't think corporate media will ever tell people the truth about Medicare for all. And then that just goes back to following the dots, connecting the money, right? Like the shareholders for those networks, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, they are usually the shareholders for like those media networks. And they're never going to support something like that you can do, for the people. So I think that's important to mention. That's why a lot of times they have the talking points that they have when we start talking about this is what we need to do for the working class, for the 99%. But the reality is, part of me wonders, nowadays, if they still continue to push back on Medicare for all, is because they want some of us to disappear. I have to ask that question, especially after the pandemic, especially after, during that time when people were getting sick. I have to wonder if they don't want all of us to have health care because they want some of us gone. And that would fall into, these theories about depopulating. I do wonder that, especially, in this country. But when we have countries that are allies of the United States, like Israel or Denmark, these other countries that have universal health care, it's really interesting when you hear these politicians, when they say, or these media pundits, when they claim that that's socialism, you never hear them say to Netanyahu that it's socialism. You never see them point their finger towards any of those other leaders of those countries that are quote unquote allies, that what you have is socialism.
If you watch this show for 5 minutes, you know how we feel about systems built to confuse people so someone else can profit. Medicare is the same kind of maze, whether you're on it now or helping a parent through it. And before the comments start, don't you guys want Medicare for all? Why promote a private company? Well, until we get the system we actually want, which is definitely Medicare for all, people still have to survive on the one we've got right now. And most people helping them get paid more to steer them wrong. Same rigged incentive we cover here every day. That's why we work with Chapter, independent Medicare advisors who are honest, not paid to push one plan over another. They're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide completely free. Take Chip, a member of our audience. His old broker milked him for commissions. He called Chapter instead, found a better plan, and now saves over $100 a month. And if you're already on the best plan for you, Chapter will tell you straight, no upsell. Get help against the rigged system. Call Chapter for free under 20 minutes at 805-201-2275. That's 805-201-2275.
And I think that people need to mention that more, right? Like if it's so bad and all of those things, then why don't you ever say anything to the Israeli government about them having universal health care? So the reality is, it's a profit-driven system. They want to continue to make money, and that's where a lot of this lies. And they know that, well, the Blue Cross Blue Shield and Aetna that have made a lot of money, and they've ripped off a lot of people. I feel like the goal never really was to cure people. I feel like the goal is to just provide treatment so you can still make money.
Yeah, so to your point, it's an excellent one on welfare, right? So if a poor person in America, for whatever reason, trying to rise up or whatever, like you could have any opinion you like about a poor person in America, right? Where you could judge him if you like, et cetera, but he's an American. And I've known tons of people who use welfare as a hand up and then got up and sustained themselves, et cetera. But at least they're Americans and you're helping your own citizens. But our media, both the Republicans and corporate media, which are welfare queen, right? Israel then takes $320 billion off of us and they're not welfare queens? And they're one of the top economies in the world. As Sabby pointed out, they have universal healthcare, we don't. They have free college, we don't. So why do they get to have everything? We have to finance them. If we ever help ourselves, we're welfare queens. But if we help Israel, they're not welfare queens. No, if we're gonna use that term, Israel is the queen of welfare queens. the very, very top welfare queen in this country, constantly demanding more and more money. I have to give more health care to my citizens. I have to attack more of my enemies. I have to destroy more of my neighbors. You owe me money. And for what? You're not even us. You're someone else. You're a different country. And the part I don't quite agree with you on, Savvy, is I don't think they're looking to kill us. I think they're just looking to rob us blind. I don't mean Israel. I mean all the donor class, everyone donating to politicians at the highest levels, the corporations, and yes, foreign governments. They're just taking and taking, and to the point about who's actually hurting the average guy. Well, what happened in the one big beautiful bill from Donald Trump? Here's what Yahoo Finance reports. Middle income Americans will see a rise in taxes by an average of $900 in 2026, an Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy report says. So it turns out Donald Trump is the one that took money out of your pocket and raised your taxes if you're middle class in America. By the way, every tax break, the Social Security and the one on tips, runs out very quickly. But the tax cuts for the rich and for corporations, they have no deadline, they never run out. Because the whole enterprise are disgustingly corrupt government. Their job is to take as much of your taxes as possible and redistribute it to the top, to the donors who legally bribed them. And the job of the media is to say, I don't see it, I don't hear it, and I'm not gonna speak it, that's for sure. It's super obvious. The donors are bribing our politicians, and our politicians are robbing us and giving it to other countries, giving it to corporations who don't need it. And then what does it do? The effect of that, Sabby, is yes, 114,000 Americans die because we don't have a health insurance. Americans die in foreign wars we don't need to be in. And so it's not necessarily their intent, in my opinion, but it is the result. And I think it's all comes from the same place. They don't give a damn about us. And honestly, this democracy, it's not dead yet because you could still vote, you could still capture the government, and now we see a bunch of outsiders winning now for the first time in our lives. But they've nearly killed our democracy with infinite corruption, money in politics that allowed legalized bribery. And if once you allow legalized bribery, the mob's gonna come in, and that's what these corporate PACs and foreign government PACs are. They're the mafia. They're gonna come in and purchase the politicians and proceed to rob all of us for the rest of the time. In fact, they'd be suckers not to, right? So if big oil doesn't rob you, big pharma's gonna rob you. And if big pharma doesn't rob you, Israel's gonna rob you. So Sabby isn't the only way out of this getting money out of politics. Otherwise, we're gonna be on this endless treadmill of corruption for the rest of our lives while the a-holes in media tell us there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong. Back to the mines.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's what a lot of this goes back to. The corporate money, the big money in electoral politics is part of the reason why we're here, right? When we talk about these wars, that's also money in politics. Wall Street benefits from that, of course, also the military industrial complex. We're looking at now, we have Elon Musk is a trillionaire. I don't know if people realize how dangerous that is. Like he already put money towards Trump's, election. Think about how much money he can throw and toss into elections now. So we have a big problem. I think this country would be run very differently if we didn't have corporate money, this big money interest in electoral politics. I think you would see sweeping legislation pass across the board. And I think it is the money, and then you have lobby interest groups that are also writing legislation. That should be illegal. How did we get here? And so honestly, you end up with a lot of puppets that are in DC. You'll have a handful of people that will stand for what they think is right. And then of course, like big money will try to remove them from office. They're not always successful at doing that. But honestly, you have a lot of puppets that are in Congress right now. And I feel like it is now the time where they're really starting to feel that heat and that pressure from the voters, because some of these people, they're losing left and right. People that have been taking all this money from, whether it's AIPAC, whether it's from big oil. I think Haley Stevens really, for example, I think she thought she had it in the bag. I really do, because she had the endorsement from Clyburn, and She had so much money that was coming in. And it's just, I think it's now that time where more of them are starting to feel that heat and feel that pressure from the voters.
Here, if you're on the left or the right or the middle, please keep putting pressure on incumbents. The incumbents are crooks. Vote almost all of them out unless you're positive they're not taking money in politics and they're serving you. There's only a couple of them anyway. But vote out all the other bums who are here to rob you and get money out of politics. Otherwise, the robbery is going to be permanent. Let's get that amendment. Let's work together as a nation and show them what America's all about.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.